We're going to begin our discussion now. You have the floor, so you can ask questions or make observations. I'm going to ask that you introduce yourselves before you begin with your questions or comments. Pardon me, I need to clarify that we have 10 minutes total for these comments. Just to explain why, at any point here or soon, the foreign minister of Ecuador will be arriving, and he is honoring us with his presence, so please understand the time limitation that we have.
Bueno, buenos días.
Good morning to one and all. I should like to say hello to the head table. My name is Mr. Salgueiro. My whole name is difficult for many here to pronounce, but there are some other names that are difficult to pronounce for me. So I'm from Hacer, the peace service in Latin America, and the Brazilian chapter. Hacer has observer status in the United Nations. We work throughout the Latin American continent defending human rights. We have been working with more matters in the social sector as well. As we understand it, social rights are also human rights. The matter of Palestine, the question of Palestine, not because I'm of the left, but rather for other reasons, it's always been very important to us. Our general coordinator, who is a Nobel Prize winner, has very clear positions on this. I believe that our organizations, we each have our own area of work, we all have our own fields, we all work in our different ways, but we need to work together. We very much want to engage this matter. There's much work in Brazil on this, and I want to be involved as well. We'll be working with you. I believe that what's most important is that none of the organizations should be providing all applications for interesting. The Consensus for Peace makes a tremendous contribution. Chauvel's vision, I think, is absolutely essential and urgent, and we certainly want to work with that effort. We can each just explain our concept of peace, salam, or shalom, or pax romana, whatever it is, but peace is possible. We need to find it. There needs to be tolerance and respect. And little by little, we can reach peace. The peace that we yearn for, as do our colleagues in the consensus. So peace now, I think, is an important statement. Peace now. Let's make peace now. In Serpas, in our organization, we are available to work with you. We can take advantage of our consultative status with the United Nations. We also have our Nobel Prize winner, our general coordinator, that is, and we can very much be at the service of this cause and undertaking. Peace is more than peace is also spiritual. It's tied to love. It's not just a pragmatic thing. We do need to reach a pragmatic peace, but then we can build the peace that we want. Thank you. That would be all.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. The next speaker. My name is Alicia Herrera from the Ecumenical Support Program in Palestine and Israel. As I mentioned previously, our program answered a call from the Palestinian Christians in 2001, calling upon all other Christians in the world to go back and see the situation that the Palestinian Christians suffer under the occupation. And the program is a response to that call. Since 2001, we have been sending volunteers from around the world. Every 3 months, we have some 30-some volunteers that rotate through the program. Right now, we have a volunteer from Ecuador. She's in Hebron. Just her, I believe, this year from Ecuador. My questions is for my compatriot, Groisman. I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Groisman? It has to do, to some degree, with this statement or declaration, or the mission, really, statement for the consensus. There's a specific part that refers to negotiating the return of the refugees. We believe that the creation of the State of Israel has legitimacy granted it by legal bodies. I'm not an expert in that, but we all agree on that point, I believe. And further, the famous Resolution 194, which calls for the return of refugees as soon as possible to their homes and with their belongings. That has not come about. That has not been implemented. And we believe that any Jew around the world could return to Israel without any restriction, without any negotiation. I would perhaps like a comment on that point. The matter of negotiating the return of refugees, the Palestinian refugees. I have another question. It's actually an anecdote. I met in the Shafat camp. I met some refugees. Right now, it's outside of Jerusalem because of the wall. When I met people in Shafat in the camp, the wall hadn't been completed. There are a great many people in that camp living with any type of paperwork, any type of documentation. I met a family from Venezuela, Palestinians, that had lived in Venezuela, and they left their passports in order to obtain their ID card, their blue ID from Jerusalem. And so they have spent 6 years in this identity limbo. They don't have any type of paperwork. There are a great many people that are in this type of situation. This family, they spoke Spanish, they had been in Venezuela. The grandfather, or the great-grandfather, had been the owner of where the Ben Gurion airport was. Those were his lands. And now they're living in the Ashwat camp. So I just don't know what plans the international community has, or what legal body backs the matter of compensation for those who live in this sort of situation. Economic compensation, they lost their money, it was in the banks, they lost their lands, they lost their houses, etc. So perhaps you could address this. What type of compensation is set forth for such situations? Or is there something set forth for this? For Rafael, I very much liked your video. I liked it a great deal. It was very emotional. I enjoyed it. There was a lot of love in it. Lots of introspection as well. I enjoyed it a great deal. And with the matter of landscape, I should like to mention the makeup of the landscape, the makeup covering up the landscape. I traveled around the wall on the Israeli side, and you can't really, either the wall is beautiful or you can't really see it. It's painted, there are murals, there are forests, the wall on that side is really beautiful. So this was a makeup artist that did this for tourists. It's part of the tourist discourse. There is a tourist industry that is sustained by this. And today, since we're focusing on civil society and the possibilities of what we can do, as Ambassador Mansour mentioned yesterday, our governments, our representatives, and in particular Ecuador in this case, I feel that a lot of people are operating based on that makeup on the wall, the makeup, the cover-up really, the beautification of it. President Correa had praise for the flowering of the desert in Israel, ignoring the situation of water, the water distribution issues that Pedro mentioned yesterday. So one of the things that we do specifically in our organization is inform, disseminate information on not giving in to this, not giving in to the temptation of discourse or landscape that's dressed up to hide realities. I'm not sure when this will be discussed, but the tourist industry and the business industry around all of what Pedro mentioned as human rights violations has to be revealed. So the desert's flowering on one end, but what supports this flowering? Where's it coming from? And Mr. Hussein also, my neighbor from Tris, we're almost neighbors. I'm from Las Canarocha. Again, there are two things that drew my attention. Perhaps someone could elaborate on this. The right to resistance. This is recognized in international law. The press and the international community, in practice, do not recognize this right for the Palestinian people. I apologize, but I would like to allow the panelists to respond to your questions. But I thought you wanted to get all the questions out and then the panelists could respond. I apologize. I apologize to you. I had indicated we only have 10 minutes for all of the statements, unfortunately. Mr. Groisman. First off, I know that we don't have much time, but I do want to mention two things. First, I did not thank Laura, and I should have. We have exchanged 50-some emails before this event, and I very much appreciate her work, and I think that all the panelists as well thank her for her patience and her dedication. She's really made this possible. Secondly, as we have to be brief, and we don't have much time, my email is my name, my first name dot my last name @gmail.com. So any other questions that you have, I can respond to them in that format. Lionel.Grossman @gmail, plus Facebook and Twitter. I'm in all of these formats, so you can find me in all of these places. I'm going to be concrete. Alicia, thank you for your question. It allows me to be very clear in my response. The situation that you proposed of the airport, Ben Gurion Airport, explains why we want a negotiated solution to the matter of refugees. If we have the refugees return to where they were, we'd have to destroy the airport. And I don't think that that's the intention of anybody. When we refer to a negotiated solution, specifically we're referring to that it's impossible to be linear and let them go right back, because where Yundi, my good friend Yundi, was born, there must be someone else living there, so I don't want to break down someone else's house. Someone 66 years ago, I don't know the number, but 60 years ago he lived there, and he has a right to that location, as does the person who's been living there for 60 years. So it will have to be negotiated. It's not possible to do otherwise. Otherwise it would be bringing in people to throw out someone else. Thank you very much for your question, Laura. Yes, please be brief if you might. not sure that there was a question. I do want to say something, actually, something very pragmatic. Is there perhaps is there a possibility of putting together a list of emails in an Excel sheet, contact points? Because I would love to have Alicia's email. I don't remember everyone's name, but it would be helpful. For a database, perhaps, that would be helpful. We could thus be in touch in the future. If there's a protest, for example, we can join it from Santiago and support it. And we can just keep in contact. Yes, we have all the names of everyone who participated, but I'm not sure that we have everyone's emails. So what I suggest is that when you step out of the room, leave your emails on a list, and then we can send that list to everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The two last statements then. Ms. Volkovich, please, the floor is yours. Thank you very much. Just an idea, just a final thought. It has to do with what Rafael has just asked for and with what just happened. I'm speaking on my own behalf, but I think this happens to all of us in the consensus. We feel called upon from different quarters to take concrete steps from civil society in order to achieve some final result, something tangible. And this morning, I thought we would have time for that. Clearly, time did not allow for that. What I propose then is that we should exchange all of our emails and our contact points, and this could be a starting point. These could be a starting point. Even though we've covered some ground, this could be a starting point. Because this morning, for example, we met early, the people in the consensus. We met to do some planning and to think about activities for the rest of the year in each of our respective countries. But that doesn't mean that because we're separated by countries, we can't replicate each other's activities. We can. We need to do this. We need to unite our efforts. It's like tumbling a wall. The world has shown us, and this is something I was thinking from yesterday, the world is showing us that as Europe was able to put up a wall and tear them down, South America can put together Mercosur and unite. We work better when we're working together, and what we need to do is strengthen ourselves by knocking down walls and building bridges. The only way to move ahead with actions is to focus on working together. No one can do things alone. So we just need to move with a great deal of tolerance. Very humbly, I should like to mention the words of my teacher in all of this, my human rights teacher, Rabbi Marshall Mayer. He was a human rights defender who risked his life during the dictatorship in Argentina, saving thousands and thousands of people, reporting abuses. He said, I don't want anyone's tolerance. I want respect as a human being of everyone. It doesn't matter if the mother's in the Plaza de Mayo is a Jew or a Muslim. Whatever her origin might be, she has a child who has been disappeared, and her suffering is my suffering. And I think that that's what brings us together and brings us to think of human rights, whatever origin that person might be of. Not just tolerance. Let's also talk about respect. Tolerance can have a connotation of, okay, I tolerate you, but I don't respect you. Respect is one step further. Let me say this again. Let's be in contact. We have networks. We're in the era of communication. We all have email. All of us are in the social network systems, and those who aren't can do so. Laura, if you can, I'm sorry to add this to all of your work. If you could add this task, I'd be very appreciative. Thank you very much. I think that we have all learned a great deal. Maya, thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your important statement. The committee has to reiterate your understanding with a matter of time. As Ms. Volkovich has mentioned and those who have spoken earlier, there are other means now for us to remain in contact. Time is always of the essence. So again, my apologies. Our last statement will be from Asia. Thank you very much. And quickly, I just received news that Portugal broke its contract with Mecrot just now. And the details are yet to come out, but if we don't do this, if we don't join this, we will be left out of this historical movement. Thank you very much. Very well. We're going to take a few minutes for a quick coffee break, and then we'll come back. I should like to respond to some of those who asked questions. They did reference my work. I agree. It's very important work with education, dissemination, outreach with the diaspora. On the Nakba, we need to do this because there's a great deal of potential to have an impact. All of the companies that I mentioned are involved in the occupation of the West Bank. So I very much want to boycott these companies. Alstom, Caterpillar, G-Forest, Elvid, and Mekrod. And if we can make a decision on that civil society in this meeting will do that, I think that I would be more than happy with what we've done. I would be very hopeful that we'll be making progress in this effort to make sure that justice is done. Thank you very much.